Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in today's video I'm going to give some feedback on Diana's IELTS practice speaking test. Let's jump straight into it.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Good afternoon. My name is Diana Vinogradova.
And what should I call you?
Just Diana. That's okay.
Okay, thanks, Diana. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
I work and study at the same time now.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying.
Okay, so first impressions, perhaps answers are a little bit short and maybe she just feels a little bit unsure about if she's going to give a long answer or a short answer. And I think this happens a few times in part one, where it seems like as an examiner here, I have 4 minutes to get through part one. I need to ask a bunch of different questions about a bunch of different topics. So usually when when it feels like the candidate has stopped giving her answer and stopped giving her turn, I'm usually ready then to go on to the next question. But a few times in part one, I noticed that maybe as I started my question, Diana felt like she wanted to continue her turn a little bit. And so that was a little bit, just a little bit uncomfortable. So be sure, have an idea in your mind about how long you want your turn to be. And when it feels like it's naturally done, finish it there.
In hospitality and I'm working at a hotel. So it's like the practice.
So pronunciation is very nice. I think pronunciation will be her strongest feature. She used the word practice here. Now, in Russian, I believe when you study at university, like maybe at master's level, you simultaneously work and study, and they call this praktika. But in English, we don't really use this word practice. We could call it like work experience or a job placement, but practice seems like a Russianism.
My studying.
And how long have you been working at this hotel?
At this certain hotel, I've been working for.
So a bit of a paraphrase could be okay here, right? How long have you been working at this hotel? You change the word order. At this hotel, I've been working. Now, sometimes that happens. You ask with present perfect continuous, how long have you been doing? You answer with present perfect continuous, I have been doing. Sometimes that's normal, but there are opportunities to paraphrase sometimes. So, you could change it to present perfect, like I've been here for a couple of years, or I've been here for a few months, something like this. Let's keep going.
Almost 2 years on different positions. And so now I'm.
So yeah, when she said different positions, then there was that pause again, and I felt like, okay, it's ready to go to the next question, but then Diana continued.
Night manager.
And what do you enjoy most about your job?
I enjoy working with people.
Again, nothing wrong with that. I enjoy working with people, and it's good that she hit the gerund there. I enjoy doing something. But again, the question, what do you enjoy about your job? There are so many words that you can use instead of joy. In the very simple terms, you have like or love or I'm really into or I'm a big fan of something. There are lots of those expressions to express positive attitude. And if you repeat the language of the examiner's question, you don't score any extra points for that. But you will score a point for the enjoy doing, enjoy working.
Because they're so different and I like challenging moments with our guests.
So I like that piece of vocab, challenging moments with our guest. Challenging, not just hard or difficult, but challenging. Very nice.
Where I can help them or talk to them and see how helpful and how useful I am.
So I'm sure many people, including Diana herself, will notice here that her speech isn't very rhythmic. It's not very fluent. She has a lot of pauses. I don't know if she's thinking of the language. It certainly doesn't seem like she's thinking of the idea. It seems like a language-based pause, which is not always an easy thing for the examiner to spot, but it seems like because she can't quite what we say fetch the language. She can't quite get the language into her head. She has to stop, she has to pause, she has to wait. So that interrupts her fluency and also affects a little negatively on the rhythm of her pronunciation.
Okay, now I'd like to move on and talk about health. Is it important for you to eat healthy food?
Yes, it is important, but unfortunately, I don't
I like that discourse marker. Okay, it's only but I like the use of but unfortunately. Of course, but unfortunately. So nice.
follow my own rules.
Why not?
Because it's hard to eat healthy all the time. Sometimes you crave for something not so healthy.
So a couple of things there. I really like the t in the not, right? She doesn't pronounce the t, she pronounces it with something we call a glottal stop. Like, I'm sure you've all seen the meme, like bottle of water, bottle of water. But she says not healthy. And so that's an example of very flexible use of phonemes. Very nice. But I think she used crave for. Now, you can have a craving for something as the noun, but usually with the verb crave, we use it with a direct object. So to crave something, you crave junk food or you crave something unhealthy without the preposition. I'm not really fussy about prepositions. I think a bit positively that she used the word crave. She didn't get it perfect, but she knew this word crave. That's really nice.
For like junk food or something.
Mhm.
Junk food is also a nice bit of specific topic specific vocabulary. Cool.
And if you get sick or if you catch a cold, what do you do to make you feel better?
Usually, I just sleep all the time. It makes me feel better.
A couple of things here. Firstly, the answer is short. Usually I just sleep all the time. It makes me feel better. Secondly, it makes me feel better, again, is the language of the examiner. So already here in part one, we've had three almost mirror answers where the examiner has used particular words and then the candidate has echoed those same words back to them. Now, it's okay if you present enough, vocab, enough good vocab throughout the test, and if you show good cases of paraphrasing in other parts of the test, this will not hold you back. But if you fail to paraphrase in other parts of the test, then this could be used as evidence of a lack of paraphrasing.
Okay, and now let's move on and talk about clothes. Where do you buy most of your clothes?
Usually I go to shops in the mall, so it's usual shops.
Yeah, so she repeated the word shops, and I sympathise because in the real world, if somebody asks you where do you buy your clothes, well, in shops, obviously, but you can extend the answer here, right? So a lot of people do online shopping. Maybe you mentioned that, right? I prefer to go to shops because I like to try clothes on, especially if it's something like jeans, because sometimes they don't fit correctly, and if you buy them online, they might not be suitable. Look at how many great pieces of vocab I've used there. Shops, changing rooms, order something online, they might not fit properly. All of that's good vocab connected to the theme of shopping. And Diana didn't use that vocab. She just answered it in a very normal way for her. Just, well, I go to shops in the mall. Okay, mall is a good word. I like the use of that, but it's very limited. The answer again is quite short.
And do you have any favorite shops?
No, I don't have. I just see some clothes and which I like, I buy it.
Again, she's answering in a very human way, right? This is how you would answer, you're speaking to someone in the pub, you're speaking to a friend. Do you have any favorite shops? No, I just go to any. That's normal. But remember, this is a test. And so at IELTS, we are not even judging a candidate's English. We are judging their performance. And so again, you think of this favorite shops. You have the opportunity to speak about different things here, like I like department stores and things like this, or I don't have any favorite shops personally. I like to just wander around shopping malls and do a bit of window shopping and see if something takes my fancy. Okay, this is a little bit, the language here I'm using is maybe a little bit too flowery, but it's just an example of how an answer could be extended to show some more vocabulary, some more language.
Right?
And how do you decide which clothes to buy?
Um, Usually I look at the type of clothes.
That glottal stop again, wonderful. Usually I look at the type of clothes, very nice. It's so natural.
If I need it, I buy it, but almost the price is one of the main point if I want to buy or not.
So speech is a little bit mechanical here. The price is the main point of if I. So it's just a little staccato, a little bit mechanical, a little bit sharp, not very flowing, not very rhythmic. And also I think one of the main factors would have been a very nice collocation here. Main point is okay, I understand it, but the most natural thing is one of the main factors.
And the quality.
So it's just a word, right? And quality. High quality is a wonderful little collocation here, and those things can make a big difference. Not just the word quality, but explaining your idea more. I know it's obvious what you mean when you say quality, but using more language is helpful.
And finally, have the kinds of clothes that you like changed in recent years?
Can you repeat, please?
Have the kinds of clothes that you like changed in recent years?
So I really liked that she didn't freak out, she didn't panic here, she didn't understand the question. She was totally relaxed and she just said, "Can you repeat, please?" And even the intonation in this request, "Can you repeat, please?" I liked that intonation. And so even though she didn't understand the question, she still scored good points for intonation in her question, which is great. Wonderful stuff. And she listens to the question, understands it, and then answers. Cool stuff.
Not really. I think everything like the same all the years. I'm not very interesting person in this way, in like styling or clothing.
So again, there's maybe a little bit of a lack of ideas here, and I understand in test situations, the questions are unpredictable. It even happens to me sometimes where if I have to produce an answer on the spot, I can't always do it. Sometimes the pressure is a little bit too much. But again, as examiners, we can only judge you on the information that you give us. And so again, the answer is just a bit short. Well, not really. I'm not really an interesting person in this way. Okay, but we have a lot of language that we can use, when we talk about change. If there have been changes, I used to buy this, or I didn't used to buy this, or I don't buy this anymore. If there's no change, you can say I still buy this, or when I was younger, I used to buy this stuff, and even today, I continue to buy this stuff. All of that's good language, good grammar that expresses change or no change, and you just didn't hit that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this part of the test, I'm going to give you a topic, and I would like you to speak about this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. But before that, you will have 1 minute to prepare for your talk. So you may take notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yep. Yep.
Great. So I will now share the topic on my screen. I'd like you to describe a time when you had a disagreement with someone. So your 1 minute preparation time starts now. Okay, so that's the end of your preparation
Look at my wonderful editing skills. Wow.
time. To remind you, you have between 1 and 2 minutes to give your talk, so don't worry if I stop you at the end. Can you start speaking now?
All right, before we get into it, let's just do a small recap of part one. So, firstly, pronunciation is the strongest part in part one, very natural range of phonetical features. Sometimes the rhythm of the pronunciation is not perfect, but absolute. When I think about, as I mentioned in a previous video, one of the things I think about is how difficult is it to understand this person when she speaks. And with Diana, there's no effort at all for me. I understand everything immediately without having to interpret or without having to think what she might be saying. So pronunciation great so far. Fluency and coherence a little bit staccato, so she's breaking up a little bit. She's I wouldn't say that her breakdowns are absolutely critical, but they're certainly very noticeable, and this affects the flow of the speech. Coherence, absolutely fine. All of her ideas are relevant to the questions and they're easy to understand, but they're just not quite extended enough. Vocabulary, again, she uses good examples of vocabulary, but if she spoke more, she would have more opportunities to use that vocabulary. In terms of grammar, so far, nothing amazingly flashy, but certainly no critical mistakes. And as we get to part 2 and part 3, this is when I start thinking about grammar a little bit more. And of course, in part 2, speaking at length. This will be a really important thing for her fluency and coherence. So let's see how she does. Please.
So the last time when I had disagreement with someone was at my work. I work at hotel, so it happened a few days ago. It was the argument with my guest, who was not very sober, so he wanted to argue with me.
Nice bit of vocab and nice bit of understatement there. He wasn't very sober, so this is showing some awareness of style, that because it's in an exam setting, she doesn't want to say he was completely drunk or something. He wasn't very sober. That's a nice, sophisticated, skillful use of language. Cool.
And this happened because he didn't want to give me his passport, which is necessary for guests to check in into a hotel. And he talked a lot of bad things for me, about me, and how he.
Okay, so for many students, learning the correct usage of say, tell, speak, and talk can be a huge problem. I've had this problem with so many of my students. Even after you explain the grammar, even after students know the grammar, they still produce mistakes here. So you say bad things to someone or you tell somebody bad things. Yeah, and again, the fluency is my big concern here, just how start-stoppy it is. So she never quite gets into a really nice long flow of speech.
Felt at this moment, and for me, it was like usual situation at work because I used to have a lot of guests like him, and
So she says it's a usual, just a small problem with coherence. It's a usual problem because she used to have a lot of guests. Now, I guess she knows that used to means about like often in the past. So, I mean, maybe it's workable, but it sounds to me like she's talking about the present, right? Like maybe she's trying to say, I'm used to having these type of guests, not I used to have. That difference between used to do, often in the past, and I am used to doing something, describing a situation that feels okay or normal now because we have experience. So I think there's a mistake with that grammar there. That's a judgment that I have to make, and I think it's true.
I felt a bit nervous, but
I like this use of the adverb of degree, a bit nervous. Now, many of you might not know that the rules say that we use a bit before negative adjectives, but not before positive adjectives, right? That's why we don't say a bit happy or he's a bit rich, but you can say they're a bit poor or she's a bit sad. So this use of a bit nervous, a bit before a negative adjective, for me demonstrates, again, skillful accuracy with grammar and maybe with vocab. But maybe I'd like a bit more adjectives here. So when you're invited to talk about how you feel, you've probably been studying these type of adjectives all your life about adjectives of emotion. So there's so much that you can express here.
at the same time, I felt powerful because there is a law on my side. So the situation.
I really liked that answer. I didn't, there's a small mistake with the article there. There is a law or there is the law on my side. Usually we say the law is on my side. But I really liked the answer that I felt powerful and that I felt that with the pronunciation too, that she felt confident or she sounded confident when she said that. I felt powerful and that was, I don't know, impressive.
Was fixed, and at the end, he gave me his passport. So that's the whole situation.
So again, she's having problems finishing. I think maybe what's probably going through her mind is, how long has it been? Has it been close to 2 minutes yet? Should I finish here? Is it not okay? And then so many of those thoughts are probably going through her mind, and she doesn't quite know if she should finish or not, and then she decides to. So it feels like very shaky, insecure, unstable way to finish. Also just thinking about the variety of tenses here. So again, if you're asked to describe a time when you did something in the past, I think this is an amazing opportunity to express constructions that we use in narratives. Past simple, I did something. Past continuous, I was doing. Even past perfect, I had done something. Reported speech, right? Instead of he said bad things to me, he told me to do something, or he called me something, or he accused me of doing something, or he said that plus reported speech. You have so many opportunities to use good grammar when you're asked to talk about something in the past, and I heard a lot of past simple, past simple, past simple, so I would say a limited range of grammar constructions in this task.
The disagreement.
Okay, thank you. And does it often happen that you have disagreements with guests?
Yes, it happens often because I work at night, and
So you can see the thinking here, and so that's also something that goes through my mind, is like, can I almost hear them thinking? And so in this answer where it's like, we'll just listen to that part again.
it happens often because
And does it often happen that you have disagreements with guests?
yes, it happens often
Yes, it happens often, with a pause between each word. And of course, we don't like it if that happens too often.
because I work at night, and usually at night there are guests who's not very
Not very. So nice. Such nice pronunciation.
sober, first of all, and usually
So repetition of words, of course, some words we repeat very often. Things like I think, we don't always have to, but we tend to. But she used sober twice, that she's already used. And it's not a big deal, but, maybe she could paraphrase it and say, he was quite drunk or something like this. So again, I'm looking for opportunities now for her to paraphrase things, because I know in the criteria and the lexical resource, to get a 7, you'll need to paraphrase like very effectively, and to get a 6, you'll need to have paraphrases which are generally okay. And so I'm really looking for some cases where she'll paraphrase some things. Oh, I will also say some of the chunking, that grouping words together in her pronunciation. So even though there are lapses or breakdowns in fluency where sometimes she stops, when she is in a flow, the way that she groups the words together is natural.
guests want to sleep, or they are in hurry, so they don't want to talk with me about something. So
Thank you.
they usually argue.
So this often happens as examiners. You have a clock that's running, and you want to get everything done in the right time. And sometimes, as much as sometimes it can feel uncomfortable, both for the examiner and for the candidate, sometimes we have to say, okay, thank you, okay, and move on. Sorry.
So you've been describing a time when you had a disagreement with someone. I'd like to move on now and talk about conflict.
So now we're getting into part 3. So again, I won't repeat everything from after part 1. Part 2, I think, as I mentioned, not enough grammatical range, and still we have this problem with fluency. I expect the problems with fluency to continue into part 3, because part 3 generally has more difficult questions. They are impersonal questions, not questions about you, but questions about the wider world. These are things that we don't think about every day. So I'm looking for, in part 3, I'm looking for full developed answers. I'm looking for some cases of paraphrases to push that push that lexical resource up. Some more ambition with the grammar. Control is okay, not too many mistakes, pretty decent, but a bit more ambition with more B2, C1-ish type of grammar Will we get it? I'm not sure. And another thing I'm trying to look for now is discourse markers, connectives, those words that link things. So far she's used a lot of and, so, but, because, but actually, which are fine. They're the most common ones that we use. But I'm just looking for maybe a couple more. Will we get anything like an even though, or a despite, or an in order to, or a on the one hand, or a having said that? Will we get any of that nice language that we can use when we discuss things in more detail? Let's see.
How important is it to avoid arguing with people?
I think that this is
There's nothing wrong with I think. It's probably the thing that I say the most. There's nothing wrong with I think. There's nothing wrong with I think. There's nothing wrong with I think. You see so many pages on Instagram and Twitter saying like, don't say I think, don't say I think, don't say I think. And I kind of see their point. For me, it's a wasted opportunity. There's nothing wrong with I think, but the whole world knows I think. The whole world doesn't know as far as I'm concerned. The whole world doesn't know if you ask me, right? And so using those expressions are a way to set you apart from some of the lower level students, because I promise you, students of all levels know I think. There's still nothing wrong with it objectively. It's just, for me, a wasted opportunity.
important, but not.
Again, missing an opportunity to paraphrase. I don't like to be too hacky. I like students to be as natural as possible, and so they don't have to find every paraphrase. I don't want candidates trying to paraphrase the examiner's answer every time, but some words like important, again, wasted opportunity. There are so many synonyms and stronger adjectives for important. So instead of very important, it's absolutely essential, or it's vital, or it's critical, or it's paramount, or something like that. There are just so many adjectives for important. And again, it's just an easy way to score points.
All the time, because it is important when you work in the sphere where you have to avoid these kind of situations. But sometimes there are people who
I really like this who. It's nice. Again, showing really good phonological features.
are unfair to you, and when you have to stand for yourself.
Yeah, so you almost got it. So we say to stand up for yourself instead of to stand for yourself. But also maybe the people, if you have to, and then she has the pause, and sometimes we do that, but I really like linking the infinitives. Want to do something, not want to do something, or have to do something instead of have to do something. So it changes that pronunciation of to in connected speech. Have to do. So it doesn't sound like to, it sounds like to with this schwa. Have to do something. Of course, if you're thinking of language, then you have to do this. Not a big deal.
And tell the truth, tell what you feel.
Tell the truth, yeah, but say what you feel. Again, say, tell, speak, talk. It's every student's nightmare.
And it's unfair when you just avoiding it and someone else is arguing with you.
And why do you think some people find it difficult to stand up for themselves?
So this is one thing I really like to do in part 3. In part 3, examiners are welcome to probe the candidate's answers. So once the candidate gives an answer, you can listen to it and you can think of what they said and you can ask them a follow-up question. Very often candidates are a little bit surprised by this, and sometimes they can freak out and respond negatively because they get used to this feeling that, they'll just be question, answer, new question, new answer, new question, new answer. And sometimes when the examiner digs a little deeper into the candidate's answer, it can go both ways. Sometimes the candidate can crumble and not crumble, but they can break down a little bit, and sometimes they can respond with more fluency. So let's see what happens.
Because sometimes
certainly seems to be a bit of surprise there, a bit of latency, like a gap, a pause.
people are not I'm sorry.
So she's broken down a little bit. Now, I don't know if it's because she's trying to think of one specific word, or if it's because of this technique of digging down on a student's answer. But she's broken down. Now, that's okay. It doesn't have to be a critical breakdown if she can respond.
Some people are insecure about how to express themselves.
Okay, nice. Some people are insecure, like this word insecure, and other good adjectives, about how to express themselves. I really like this reflexive pronoun, how they express who? Themselves. Nice.
So they find it easier to
Really like this too. Not, instead of saying it is easier for them to do it, they find it easier to do something. Good, 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 good.
just ignore or be silent or
Getting nicer language here. We're getting more B2ish, C1ish type of language. They find it easier to ignore. Just nice.
avoid something like
Mhm.
difficult situations.
And do you think all people can learn the skill of resolving conflicts?
I think yes, it is
So again, we get I think. There's nothing wrong with I think, but there are so many more opportunities. And also, instead of I think yes, I think so is more natural. I think so.
possible when you have kind of like a practice in this, when you have theory about different types of people, how to solve problems which were caused by different.
So a little bit listy when you have practice, when you have theory, if you have people, if you have. So it's a little bit like maybe some more discourse markers, some more linkers could be used effectively. Throughout the test, I haven't noticed any ambitious use of those connectives or linkers or discourse markers or cohesive devices. All strange, crazy linguistic terms. If you're unsure of those terms, I recommend checking out my video on fluency and coherence.
Different situations, you actually can learn and be the most powerful version of yourself.
I like that. The most powerful version of yourself. I think maybe she feels it's a little bit cliche or corny, and that's why she's laughing. But it's okay. It's perfectly fine to be the best version of yourself. I like that. So her answers are coherent and her answers are quite developed and quite full. It just takes her a lot of work and a lot of time to get there. So I mentioned as a listener, I don't have any problems understanding her. But as a speaker, it seems that she has problems getting that stuff out. So she can speak at length, but with difficulty.
And do you think something like problem solving should be a subject at school?
I think it would be great for children because
There's nothing wrong with I think. Nothing wrong with I think at all. However, it's a wasted opportunity. There are alternatives. But I think it would be is nice. I like this would be, showing that it's hypothetical.
school and all of the atmosphere with children, it's for me, it's the most toxic atmosphere.
Cool, she used for me, which is nice. And it is certainly toxic, I agree.
Children, they don't think about someone's feelings and they usually say what they think. So it would be useful for them to teach them solving problems.
Okay, let's continue and talk about communication. How has the way that we communicate with others changed in recent times?
So this is like a birthday present or a Christmas present or something, right? Now you're invited to talk about technology, and it's like, great, we all know so much vocab about technology. It's impossible not to know vocab about technology. But the question is, will the candidate spot this? Will the candidate spot that this is an opportunity to show off all of that good language about vocabulary? Also, the question is, how has something changed in the last 50 years? So you might get some present perfect, you might get some, oh, people used to do this in the past, or people would often do this in the past. They don't do this so much nowadays. Nowadays, more and more people are doing something. That's the type of language I might expect here from a high-level student.
I think nowadays
There's nothing wrong with I think, but there are alternatives. I love that she started with nowadays. Cool, good, good, good.
we usually chatting between
And also this use of continuous with trends is decent too. I don't know if that's on purpose or if she just used continuous for whatever reason. There's just a problem with chatting, that chat actually, of course, I am not, there is no arbiter. Nobody can say exactly what a word's precise meaning is. But for me, chat just means to speak informally. It doesn't have to be online, right? You can meet up for a friend for a chat in a coffee shop. So I'd really like chatting online or using messengers or texting. That type of word would be better than chat.
Um, and we usually use some social net.
So maybe just usually is used twice to people usually and we usually use and she uses social nets. Again, I'm pausing the video a lot, so you might not hear everything. So I strongly recommend watching. You can watch this speaking test in full in a previous video, but she uses social nets. Now again, for me, a social net is like people who can help you or institutions that can help you if you suddenly become poor or sick or something, like a social safety net. I know that she means social networks, but social networks is the term.
Because it became easier to chat with your friends.
Yeah, I don't know about it became, but it has become is maybe more suitable here.
You can send them voicemail. You can send them like.
Again, voicemail for me is something you send from mobile phone to mobile phone, not messenger, but cellular. So voice notes or voice messages, maybe that's okay. Those are the things you send on WhatsApp and Telegram. But voicemail, for me, sounds old school.
Video mail, when they can hear you, like they can see you. But again, we all
got a third use of usually in the same answer. So, is it critical? No, but there are alternatives.
also have this, I think, tradition to meet each other, to have this warm meetings with your friends and family, maybe in restaurants or some different locations.
And do you think people find it easier to communicate with their friends or with their families?
So I think you can also hear it. Now, of course, I'm a L1 user of English, right? Of course, I'm probably going to have a more natural flow to my speech. But I think it's noticeable that when my question comes out, it kind of comes out with flow. I don't think I'm speaking particularly quickly. I'm not delivering the questions quickly. But in contrast to the answers, it's very noticeable that my questions are coming out smooth and natural, and the answers are coming back a little bit staccato, a little bit with quite a lot of pauses there.
I think they prefer to communicate with their friends because.
And again, you notice the difficulty. They prefer to. So it sounds like she's speaking English as if it's what we call a syllable timed language instead of a stress timed language, but that's deep linguistic stuff.
They can be open about their feelings, because with family it's usually more difficult, because family is it's like in family your parents sometimes don't understand your feelings.
So again, very obvious that she can speak at length, she can develop her answers, she can give full answers, but the language isn't immediately available. She has to sit and think and fetch that language. She has to go and get it from somewhere. It's like she doesn't have milk at home for her coffee, so she needs to run to the store to get the milk and come back. That's a terrible analogy, sorry. Oat milk.
When your friends, who's usually your age, they can understand you better.
And
And
who do you think knows a person better, their friends or their family?
it depends on the relationships between.
Again, you get the good preposition. It depends on the relationships between. It's very accurate language, but again, broken up into individual words, not linked together smoothly.
In your family or your friends. So I think if you.
There is nothing wrong with saying I think, but there are so many alternatives.
have a good relationship with your mother or father, so they know you better usually
Better, so nice.
than your friend because they know you from the birth, from the moment of birth. So
Yeah, from birth without any article is fine. They know you from birth, or they know you from like the moment of birth, as you corrected, is fine too.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the
Yeah.
test.
All right, so now let's get into the scores. So here are the scores that I've given Diana. For fluency and coherence, I've given her 5. Now, I won't read all of the words on the board, but in short, she can produce longer answers, but there are just too many breakdowns and a bit too much hesitation. When she's using simpler language, okay, it's reasonably fluent, but when it comes to more complex language, certainly she breaks down rather quickly. She also doesn't use a huge range of discourse markers. They're quite straightforward, so those are some things that she should look at. So fluency and coherence is her weakest point. Next up, we have lexical resource. So she can talk about topics at length. I feel like the answers should be a little more developed, and that would allow her to use even more language. But she can do it. There is a nice variety, actually, of simple and less common lexis, so less common vocabulary items. She knows a lot of them and she uses them effectively, so that's good. That's what saves her. The paraphrasing is a bit of a concern. So with really effective paraphrasing, she would be at a 7. So that's something perhaps that she could look at too. Grammatical range and accuracy also a 6. So the grammar is generally accurate. So not a lot of noticeable mistakes. Okay, a few with prepositions, a few with articles, a few with like say tell, speak, talk. But these mistakes don't affect the communication, right? You don't hear the grammatical mistake and then get confused about what she means. The idea is always quite straightforward and easy to understand. Okay, so a decent mix of simple and complex grammar, but I really think she could have been more ambitious, especially in part 2. There were enough complex structures in there, I think, to award the 6, but she should be careful with that. A bit more ambition, and I think really she could get a 7. Just a bit of coaching, practice, trying to look for opportunities to use grammar in the right way, trying to be a bit more ambitious, perhaps. Pronunciation, I feel, is her strongest feature. Now, there are still some problems here, but the thing that saves her is the wonderful range of phonological features. So there are so many individual sounds that she sounds like a British or an American person. Yeah, really good stuff. Intonation is good. It's not sustained throughout the whole test. There are a few examples, like one when she asked that question, sorry, can you repeat that please, or something like that. That was like, oh, that's good intonation. There are little moments in the test where she shows good intonation. I think again her fluency kills her intonation a little bit, because when you're pausing and you have to think, it just kills your intonation, and also it kills the rhythm. So when she's speaking fluently, she does group her words together naturally. If you're not sure what chunking is, then look up chunking. She does do it naturally, but again, because of the poor fluency, the rhythm noticeably negatively affects her speech. And so again, she has certainly the potential to get an 8 in pronunciation, but only if she improves with fluency. Now, I'm not here to give tips on how to improve fluency. Maybe that's a video in and of itself, but the two critical things that I would say to work on: practice extending and developing answers. So this is a skill. I didn't used to be able to do it before I was a teacher. I couldn't really extend or develop answers. I just thought, oh, well, I don't know what else to say. No, I don't like it. What else do you want me to say? But it is a skill. You learn how to speak about things from many different angles. Again, I'm only giving pointing out some advice here. I'm saying what you should do and not saying how you should do it. And secondly, maybe practice focusing a little less on accuracy and coherence, because it seems to me that as a student, Diana here is thinking about, how do I say how do I speak English correctly? There's a strong grammatical presence there, that grammar is the most important thing. And coherence, which I like. I like the fact that she's focusing on coherence. She wants to get a clear, straightforward idea across. That's cool. But she's sacrificing her rhythm, she's sacrificing her fluency for that. Now, improving fluency, I've had students, and I consider myself to be a pretty good teacher. I've had students for maybe 2 years, 3 years, and they say that their goal is to improve their fluency, and after 3 years they don't really improve their fluency. They show patches, they show times where, sometimes they're in the right mood, they're in a good mood, the topic is good for them, they can show good fluency, or if you ask them to show good fluency, if they focus, they can do it. But generally, improving fluency can be a really, really difficult thing. It is possible. It's certainly possible. And I'm sure, hopefully, Diana can go back to her teacher and maybe, if she's interested, to work on some of these things. But I think I will leave that there for today. Hopefully you found this analysis video interesting or useful. Again, it gives you some ideas of some of the things that we think about as examiners. Now, of course, when you're an examiner, you don't have time to think about every single detail. We work a lot more on impressions, but certainly if we look at IELTS's criteria, these are the things that I found in Diana's speech, and this is why I've given her the marks that I have given her. Of course, I am giving away free practice IELTS speaking tests in May. If you are watching this video and you're interested in taking one, please do let me know. But I'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, day, afternoon, wherever you may be. Thank you. Bye-bye.